What's up everybody, welcome back to One More Guitar. Thanks for watching. My name is Kyle and today's video is all about Les Pauls, and specifically these three Les Pauls behind me. We're going to compare the Epiphone 59 Les Paul Standard, the Gibson Les Paul Studio, and the Gibson Les Paul Standard. I'll tell you what I like about each of these guitars, some of the things I don't like about them, we'll talk about the price, we'll play them back to back, and then I'll give you my thoughts on them. So let's get going. I want to start by just talking about some of my favorite things about these guitars. I'm going to hit the highlights of the specs, but if you want to see more, check out the reviews I did of each of these. I've also done a comparison video of the Epiphone 59 and the Gibson Les Paul Standard, so check that video out if you want to see these two compared directly. I'll put some links in the description. So first, let's talk about the things I like about the Epiphone 59 Les Paul Standard. We'll start with the looks. This guitar comes with an aged gloss finish, and this is a finish that was created with the Epiphone in the Gibson Custom Shop. And it's supposed to give it an age played-in look. It's not necessarily relic, but it does give it kind of a different feel. It's almost like a satin finish, but not quite. I'm not sure exactly how to describe the feeling of it, but it's a little bit different. Now, another thing I like about it is it comes with binding. You know, it pretty much looks like a Les Paul Standard, and so that's what you're looking for at this lower price point, so I think that's pretty cool. And it also comes with a veneer over the top to make it look like it's got a nicer piece of wood on the top than it actually does. Again, this is just to make it look like a Les Paul Standard, so that's pretty cool. Another thing I really like about this guitar is that it comes with Gibson Burstbucker pickups. These are some of my favorite Gibson pickups, and so I love the way this guitar sounds. It also comes with quality electronics. You get a Switchcraft switch, a Switchcraft output jack, CTS pots, and then like I mentioned, the Gibson pickups. So that's really awesome, especially for Epiphones. You really don't see that often. Another thing I really like about this guitar is the playability. The neck profile is really comfortable in my hands, and the guitar weighs under 9 pounds, and that's really comfortable for a Les Paul. So those are the things I like about the 59. Now let's talk about the Studio. As far as the looks go, I actually do like the way it looks without the binding, and I think not having a poker chip, something about it just gives this guitar a sleek look, and I think it looks cool. This is a USA made guitar too, so it's going to come with a nitro finish. You're going to get quality hardware and quality electronics. You get Gibson pickups, of course, and you get the Gibson name if that matters to you. This guitar also comes with push-pull pots that allows you to split the coils and make this guitar a little more versatile than the other two. I do like the Grover tuners on there. I like the Kluson tuners on the other ones, but you know, I really like the way these feel in my hands when I'm tuning the guitar up. So just something I like about it. This is kind of a light rosewood fretboard on this guitar, but I like the way it looks with the ebony finish. Another thing I really like about this guitar is the weight. Now this one actually comes with Gibson's modern weight relief, and I'll put a picture of that up on the screen. But they've actually removed a lot of wood from this to make it weigh less. And it weighs under 9 pounds, so again, like I said, it's a really comfortable weight, and this guitar is really balanced too. Next up, we'll talk about the things I like about the Gibson Les Paul Standard. As far as the looks go, I think it looks fantastic. You've got nice flame figuring in the top. You've got binding along the edge of the guitar, mother of pearl inlay in the headstock, and I really like this dark rosewood fretboard on here. Again, this is a USA made guitar just like the Studio is, so you get the nitro finish, quality hardware and electronics, Gibson pickups, and again this has got Gibson Burstbucker pickups in it just like the Epiphone 59 does, except this has the 1 and 2 and that one has the 2 and 3. I think I actually prefer the 2 and 3, but I really do like the way the 1 and 2 sound in this guitar too. And then again, you get the Gibson name on this one. So I think this is my favorite sounding of the three guitars. Something about this guitar has the right combination of pickups and construction that just gives it a ring that I don't really hear with the other two. Alright, now let's talk about a few things that I don't like about each of these guitars. So back to the Epiphone 59. The first thing I want to mention is that after a few months of having this guitar, maybe a year or so, I got some really bad fret sprout on it. And I had to order a kit from StewMac and do a little bit of work to, file the frets down and to get it to where it wasn't cutting my hand up when I was playing. Not a big deal, but I did have to invest some time and money into that, so something I wanted to mention there. And the other thing is that this guitar comes with a Laurel fretboard, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think it feels fine. I just think it always looks a little bit dry and a little bit light, and I wish they had put a rosewood fretboard on there. So those are the two things I dislike about the 59. Now let's talk about the Studio. So the 490R and the 498T pickups are not my favorite. They're the same pickups that are in a Gibson Les Paul Custom, so it's not like they're giving you lower quality pickups. It's just that they're designed for a more modern sound than I typically play. They're a hotter pickup and they drive the amp more at lower volumes, and it kind of makes it a little bit harder to play clean. And when you pull the push-pull knob on the neck pickup, it becomes pretty muddy to my ear. And I'll mention one more thing. I don't know if it's the weight relief or possibly the bridge and tailpiece they use on here, but something about this guitar doesn't ring the same as the Standard does to me. Alright, now the things I don't like about the Gibson Les Paul Standard. First is it's really unbalanced. A lot of the weight is in the back end of this guitar, and when you're sitting down playing, it really likes to fall off your leg. However, when you're standing up playing, it kind of puts the neck in the perfect position. So, I don't know if I can complain about it too much, but it is annoying because I tend to play sitting down more than I play standing up. And then the other thing about it, and this is just a little nitpicky thing, is that the neck feels kind of wide to me. It's not really that wide, it's just something that I've got to get used to when I pick it up and start playing it. Alright, so that's what I like and dislike about these guitars. Now I think it's time to go hear them back to back. Which one should we start with? I think I'll go with the Epiphone 59 because it's the most affordable and it's the closest to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play these guitars back to back. We'll start at the neck pickup. We'll hear that clean, and then we'll go to the bridge pickup. Check that out clean. Then I'll add a little bit of dirt, and we'll go back through them and do the same thing. So let's hear what this sounds like and see how they sound back to back. Now that we've gone over the guitars and I've told you what I like about them and some of the things I don't like about them, and we've heard them back to back, let's talk about the price a little bit. We're going to start with the Gibson Les Paul Standard. Now, in the current market, these things are about $2,800, and that's a lot of money, you know, so why are they so expensive? Well, let's talk about a few of the reasons. First of all, Gibson will tell you that they use higher quality wood on the Standards than they do on the Studios, and then higher quality wood on all of the USA stuff than they do on Epiphone. But I don't really know what that means. I'm not a wood qualityologist, but I do know that the tops of the Gibson Les Paul Standards usually come with some kind of flame figuring or something like that, and so people have to go through, look at the wood, and say, yeah, this is a good quality piece, pull that one aside, you know, so we can use that on the Standards. And that might be the case for the mahogany and the fretboard too. So you've got some, you know, human interaction there, then you have to pay employees to do that kind of stuff, so there's a little bit of a cost. Another thing is the nitro finish. You know, any guitar that's got a nitro finish is always going to have a little bit more of a cost to it because that finish just costs more to do. So that's another thing that makes it a little more expensive. It also has a mother of pearl logo in the headstock, and that's a little more expensive to do than just silk screening it on there like they do on the Studio. So again, that's another cost. And then to me, the biggest one is the binding. I don't know if you've seen the videos that Gibson put out about the binding and the scraping and how they do that process, but it takes a lot of work. When they're doing the binding, they've got to, you know, put the binding around the guitar. They have to wrap the guitar a bunch of times, and then they have to let it set for a long time, and then they spray it and have to go around and scrape all of the binding off of all of the body and around the neck and all of that to get the paint off of it. Takes a lot of time, takes employees to do this kind of stuff, so again, that's something that's going to cost a lot of money, you know, just in the production process. It's going to drive up the price of this guitar a little bit. So those are some of the reasons that this guitar might be a little bit more expensive. And we'll talk about if it's worth it or not here in a little bit, but let's move on right now, and we're going to go to the other end of the spectrum and talk about the Epiphone 59. In today's market, the Epiphone 59 goes for between $800 and $900. I think I got mine for $850, but the price may have gone up a little bit since I got it. But let's talk about what you get in this price range. So the first thing I want to mention is the electronics inside of it. A lot of times Epiphone cut cost by giving you really cheap quality electronics. So you'll have switches that go out and output jacks that don't keep connections and stuff like that. But in this guitar, you've got Switchcraft switch and a Switchcraft output jack. You've got Gibson electronics, you've got CTS pots, so really high-end quality stuff in this Epiphone. Another thing is it comes with this aged gloss finish. Now it's not quite the same as a nitro finish, but they tried to give you something a little special. They worked with the custom shop to develop this, and it's supposed to give you this aged look to the guitar, and I think it's pretty cool. And it feels pretty good on your hands too, you know. Another cool thing about this guitar is just how close it looks to a Gibson Les Paul Standard. It comes with pearloid inlays in the fretboard and in the headstock, and I know it's not the same as mother of pearl, but it kind of gives you the same vibe and look, so I think that's pretty cool. They also include the binding with this guitar. I'm not sure how they do that at this price point, but I think it looks great, and I think it's awesome that they've got it. And then you get a veneer on the top of this guitar that kind of gives you the same vibes as some of the nice wood that you get on a Gibson Les Paul Standard. Now my particular one is not the best example, but I have seen some really good ones out there. So again, I think this guitar just looks great. So you're getting a really good looking guitar at the price, and it's also got all of the USA electronics in it. So, you know, a really good deal on this guitar. All right, now let's talk about the Les Paul Studio. You can pick up a Gibson Les Paul Studio for about $1,700–1,800 new, and that's a good bit more than the Epiphone cost and a good bit less than the Gibson Les Paul Standard cost. So let's talk about that a little bit. So comparing it to the Les Paul Standard, a few of the ways that they've cut cost on this is to remove the binding, which we talked about how expensive that was, and I'll put links in the description to those Gibson videos, by the way. But they've removed the binding, and they've also taken the mother of pearl logo out of the headstock. It's a lot cheaper to just silk screen it on there. So they've taken some of the fancy stuff, you know, out of the guitar to bring the price down. But it does still come with a nitro finish, and it's got USA quality parts in it and stuff like that. Now I've heard that, you know, they use less quality wood on this than they do the Gibson Les Paul Standard. Again, I don't know what that means, but that's what they tell us. So, you know, I'm sure that's another way that they've brought the price down a little bit. The Les Paul Studio also has a few different features like I mentioned earlier. You've got the different Gibson pickups, the push-pull pots, the speed knobs, a few things like that that they've done to try to differentiate it from the Gibson Les Paul Standard line. So I wanted to mention that because I think it does come into play with the price. But I also want to say that to me, I feel like the Gibson Les Paul Studio is a bit overpriced when you compare it to the Epiphone 59. They're usually available on the used market for around $1,200 and sometimes even lower. So you can usually find a really good deal on these guitars, and I think at that price, that's really the sweet spot for this one. So that's what I think about the price of these guitars and how they kind of compare to each other. Alright, so let me give you my final thoughts on these three guitars. We'll start with the Epiphone 59. This one's got to win the Best Value Award. You're really getting a lot for your money with this one. You're getting quality Gibson pickups, you're getting quality electronics, you're getting a really good switch and a jack in here, which is something that you don't always get with an Epiphone. It is a really comfortable guitar. I think it sounds great, and it's a really reliable guitar. It also comes with an awesome case, so again, great value for your money here. The Gibson Les Paul Studio is going to win the Modern Sounding Award out of these three. The 490R and 498T pickup set don't give me the same vintage vibe that I'd get out of the Burstbuckers, but they do still have a PAF quality to them. They've just been modified a little bit to be a little bit more modern sounding. Especially that bridge pickup. It's got an Alnico 5 magnet in it instead of an Alnico 2, and it's a little bit hotter, and it really does give you a good modern rock kind of sound to it. So I think it's a great sounding guitar. It's also a USA made guitar, so you've got quality electronics and quality hardware, nitro finish on it, and it's a Gibson Les Paul. It may not be as fancy as a Gibson Les Paul Standard, but it's still a very nice guitar. Now personally, I feel like it may be priced a little bit high, but you know, again, you can get them on the used market for a fairly reasonable price. And finally, the Gibson Les Paul Standard. Now this is a really expensive guitar, but I think we've figured out where some of those costs go. And to me, this one wins 2 awards, the best looking and the best sounding. I think the top on this thing looks fantastic. I think the fretboard looks great. I love the mother of pearl logo. I think that looks really good, and the guitar just looks great. The back's awesome. It's just a beautiful looking guitar, but it also sounds great too. When I was playing it in the room, I thought it sounded better than the other two, and then when I listened back to the playing samples, I still thought it sounded better than the other two. So to me, I feel like you're getting more for your money than just the Gibson name, just the binding and the mother of pearl and all that stuff. These really are high quality instruments, and I feel like, you know, you're kind of getting what you're paying for. I'm sure you're paying some premium for the name and all of that, but still, you are getting a little bit more from this guitar in terms of sound quality and just, you know, appearance to me. So those are my thoughts on these guitars. I hope you liked the video. Remember to check the description below for the links to the Gibson videos, and if you want to check out any of the stuff I used during the playing samples. Again, I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, take it easy and keep playing.